Call the meeting to order, and we begin with a review of minutes of our meeting of June 11th. Any questions, any revisions to the minutes?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Resolution is carried. Search committee. Brian, how are you?
Hey, good morning. Good morning. Sir.
Thank you. All right, topic is the search committee. You can relax. Mike isn't going anywhere very soon, but it is time for us to begin the beginning of the process for finding his the person who will succeed him when he retires from CEDC. Mike is under contract with us through the end of 2025, and indeed has expressed openness to extending into 2026, depending on circumstances. But this is a process that I think will probably take the better part of a year in order to find someone of the caliber of Mike Tucker. There's a lot of factors, a lot of decisions that need to be made. So I think it's important that we get started with that process now. In your pile is a sheet with a resolution I'd like to ask you to approve and send on to the board. The executive committee would serve as the core of the search committee. There would be three other individuals. The first is Rachel Levine, who is chair of our governance and nominating committee. The second is Martha Lane, as a representative of the staff. And the third is Jim Mackerer. Jim was on this board quite a few years ago. Some of you may know him. He was on the board that hired Mike Tucker. And so he would provide some perspective that perhaps we don't have about how we got here and where we should be heading. So the resolution would just say that under the bylaws, the board needs to approve the creation of any new committee and the composition of that committee, and spell out the purposes of finding the next president and CEO. What questions you have?
I think it's a strong committee. I would make a motion that we accept this and send this on to the board. Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carried. Thank you very much. Now, update on staffing, Mike?
We certainly are appreciative and engaged as a staff, as an existing staff. A lot has been going on in both the loan and technical assistance and grant area with Martha and Steve. Kat Leiden has been working very diligently on our books and records as we get close to the end of the third quarter. Chris Brown has done an extraordinary job with the Affordable Housing Initiative. I think the highlight, which we may have mentioned at the board meeting, was when Chris presented to the Board of Supervisors recently on his activities. Supervisor Knott from Stuyvesant asked if he could say a few words, and he said that he wasn't really sure that this was a great idea to fund a housing initiative 2 years ago, but he's been honored to work with Chris in that effort. And there's an architect who has been started out particularly focused and critical of the county's response to housing, and he was not able to attend a webinar recently with Chris, and he sent an email that Chris took and showed his mom. So, I think that, and Riley has been continuing to be more engaged in the communication side of what we do, and also taking over some of the responsibilities that Jessica had for the Office of Community Renewal Reporting. And none of us would be here without Lisa, because we didn't get the notice. And also, throughout the year, Lisa has been working on issues that come up with the Authority Budget Office to clarify matters between CEDC, the IDA, and the county IDA, and keep the trains running. I think what that says, and we also clearly feel the need to find someone to replace Jessica. But I think that as we go into this search process, it's not that easy, but it may be beneficial that we haven't filled that position, because I think where I see the search going is more looking at the overall organizational and functional aspect of the staffing, because I do think the staffing will need to be different when I'm not here, and I don't say that in any respect other than as the organization has grown, I don't know that I have done that good a job of reallocating work. We just keep getting it done, and I think everyone feels that pressure because we're all doing the same thing. I know we had a loan committee meeting yesterday. Steve made a presentation on our Evergreen County Loan Fund, which means that with a 10% default rate and $500,000 a year in new loans, we can keep that fund in existence forever. Martha continues to work closely with the SBA, working to draw down the next $1 million. Two of them just put $300,000 on the street with the state's microenterprise program. It was successful enough that we're looking to get Board of Supervisors approval to request the second tranche of those funds. We also were selected by the state to administer a grant fund for the Village of Kinderhook as part of their $2.25 million Future Forward grant, which we get a $30,000 fee for. And that will be another feather in our cap, but also another project or program that we're undertaking with the same staff. So I see the search process as having a strategic planning component to it, both in terms of what we do and our function and how we function. I do think economic development organizations and small businesses, which I've spent half my career in small business and half my career in not-for-profit economic development, you're always needing the next person. And often the next person isn't so well defined as it would be in a larger corporate environment of a person that just does a single task or has a single purview. So I see this process as having a broader purpose, and also the opportunity for the board to reassess how we are implementing the mission. I think you all know that the biggest issue I have is saying no. I feel that if you, particularly when you're asked by the Board of Supervisors that giving you $750,000 a year, they'll find someone else to do it. Because if they're not going to do it themselves, they're going to keep asking someone until they find someone. And at a certain point, you can become functionally obsolete. So I'm excited about the process. I do have some thoughts about it that we can discuss in executive session either today or at the first meeting. But I do see it, and for the benefit of the staff, I do think it will give all of us the opportunity to assess our own personal plans and be in a situation of having transition as several of us get to the point of retirement age. What the staff has done, and we did this when I first got here, was once a month, everyone made a bullet report of what they've done. And we'll have that for you for the board meeting, just to give you a sense of the breadth and depth of what we do, and also get some input from those of you who run your own businesses as to why are you doing that, and is the climate carnival really outside of our mission? So I am excited about it, and Jim and I have had some very open dialogue about it, and I think again, I'm glad that Martha's going to serve on the committee, and I know that the committee will engage all of the team members here in that process.
Thanks, Mike.
Can we just briefly touch upon replacing Jessica? Because the first thought that comes to my mind is we've had such difficulty doing that, like that trepidation, like makes me worry about replacing you eventually. So like that as a background, do you think the fact that that position is open gives us, a little bit, makes it a little bit potentially more attractive to a candidate, that knowing that there's going to be a vacancy essentially ahead of that person, that they may have a leg up on filling if they're already here? Or is it conversely, do we want to back off on filling that position to ultimately kind of bring in a team, a 1 and a 2 man together, when you ultimately decide to
I'm just shocked that we haven't had any responses.
You did a search yet?
Yeah, for Jessica?
Yeah.
Oh, we've
But
done it
I
2 times.
I'm saying it's apples and oranges, but I've been spending the better part of my advertising budget trying to find one guy, and I can't go.
Well, it's a well-paid job. I was hopeful that we also had 2 jobs, right? Because this new rule is that you have to post the salary range. If somebody came in who had some level of experience, but certainly not the level that Jessica had, we have a project manager's position, which, is also, and, I was looking at what they did in Greene County. They hired James Hanish from, was it Johnstown? Gloversville. He was the economic development director for Gloversville. He's under 30 years of age. I told him I would only tell him this once because I didn't want to offend him, but I said, you remind me of me at your age. And he took it as a compliment. So, at least in my presence. So I was hoping that we would find someone who either fit the bill or would grow into a position where the board would consider them for a future position. We've spent $2,500 in advertising, Business Review, Times Union, Register Star, Indeed, the Economic Development Council, the national and the state organization. We even went to the housing, they put it in the newsletter for the Housing Coalition and the New York Urban Planning. And we had really only one viable candidate who had a similar job in Maryland and was moving here. And unfortunately, at the end of the process, even though it stated in the ad that it was not a virtual position, they requested that they be able to have 4 days a month working virtually when they were at a job in another state. I'm just totally shocked. Unless somebody told them I was here, they didn't want to come work.
But not you, Mike.
I know. So, I think that we're all going through this, right now, when we looked at the employment numbers for Columbia County from 2019 till today, it's the only county in the region that hasn't changed. It's actually 0 change. And we have 800 people who are collecting unemployment out of a labor force of 25,000. Now, I do think there's a contingent of people in the county that work under the table, and at least to some extent. even where I live, you know, you want a new hot water tank, it's $1,200, but if you give me cash, it's $950. I don't do that, but, so I just think that, having this focus of this search will answer some of those questions. You know, I think, when Jessica came, we discussed the concept of that with no guarantee. And again, you know, I think part of it will focus on what we're working on for the finance committee with a 5-year budget, 3 to 5 year budget. Because, you know, Jessica, the opportunity to be chief of staff at the Office of Community Renewal, at a 35% increase in salary from what we were paying. And being in the state system for as long as she was in, I would have driven her to the job, as difficult as that was. Because it was an opportunity that her age she couldn't pass up. And she still had a lot of runway, after, you know, getting her time in at the state at those higher salaries to have a wonderful career in the private or not-for-profit sector. So I don't know the answer, but I do think that you know, the intent was that as I leave, the money would be available, and we are looking at the fact that, you know, how do we reassess when the ARPA money is gone? Now, you know, we have another year of ARPA money in 2025. We also have a pending USDA application, where we took the guts of Columbia Forward and repackaged it as to do the same thing, but under a USDA grant. That would take us 2 more years out with that money. We also have a grant application in for 2 years for $75,000 for additional broadband. And again, you know, this funding stuff is fungible, especially, you know, you certainly have to demonstrate that you spent the money on the job function that you applied for, but everyone in the office does some work on all of these. So if you think that, I really think looking at what we do as an organization, then looking at the current staffing, and looking at the budget will lead us to how you want to go about actual search, which is why I think Jim is rightfully wanting to do this, you know, far in advance. There's also, you know, it's never, you know, I could see an overlap where someone comes in and we're both here for a period of time. I don't think it works where someone comes in and I stay. I mean, that just doesn't work for people in either side. Yeah, you might do some consulting on a project or something, but you gotta give the new person space.
So I'd like to see if we could get the initial meeting of the search committee in during October. How are your schedules during October?
Good day. Figure it out.
I'll send you an email with some possible dates so they can react to. We'll see if we can get everybody out around the table sometime in October just to get organized and figure out what we need to do next. Let's see. At the board meeting next week, we're going to budget some time for open discussion. And we've asked Rich Nesbitt and Michael Minsky to come up with a topic. You're working on that?
Mhm.
All right. If you could let me know or let Mike know so that we can let the board know what the topic is going to be. They can, give us some thought coming in. That would be helpful.
Just one comment on that. I was thinking about it since we last talked about it, Mike. I think there's so many different initiatives that create funding opportunities for CEDC. Just thinking through kind of a multi-meeting inventory of all those different things might be helpful, because I'm newer, there's other new members. I just think it's taken me a while to even get my arms around all the different incoming opportunities in the way CEDC structurally tries to pursue economic development in the county.
One thing I've done is I've pulled the budgets for 8 other county economic development organizations. And you know, because I read in the paper with Kevin O'Connor, trying to, change the IDA rules and all that, without success, so, that his,
So it was hotel taxes and
Yeah.
stuff for
that his budget was, you know, $3.2 million, but they were getting $500,000 from Albany County, which, you know, really shows the commitment of this county when they're giving us 460, as a base. So when I looked at it, they claimed they were gonna bring in $750,000 in fee for services. And, you know,
from that tax, right? From their share.
well, they were gonna, that was separate, but, you know, they were gonna bring in $750,000 and he's staffing up for it. And the only thing I can think of is, you know, if John Frischkoff comes in to get our assistance on a grant, we're gonna charge him for the grant. I mean, when the county's giving us money. I also think, you know, we've never really had success in breaking through the membership sponsorship arena, but, you know, we don't want to compete with the chamber. And at the same time, when you look at the dollar level that you have to go to not to compete with the chamber, the people who run those businesses or organizations know how much we're getting from the county, and they figured they paid at the office. So, but, you know, there could be a way of, you know, and I don't want to get into hosting golf outings and, you know, those types of things. Although, you know, Saratoga Economic Development does. They have a banquet instead of a breakfast, and they charge, you know, $50 a head, and, you know, we spend 10 grand having the breakfast for free. I mean, so there are things that we do because they're easier, but I think, and you would need to have someone who, part of their job is event planning. But there are things that, by looking at what others are doing, you know, you could pick up 25% new revenue.
Any other topics, questions, comments? Anyone? Okay.
You talked to Phil Calderon.
Yeah. Well, I'm putting together an exhaustive memo on what we do here for the very purpose that you're talking about. And, you know, once a quarter, I've convinced that Center for Economic Growth to revive the meetings that I held when I was there, which is a quarterly meeting of the 8 county economic development directors. And so I walked in, I was 2 minutes late. And, so wait, you're just coming from your interview at the airport.
If there are any members of the public attending, we're happy to hear your comments. If not,
Anything from the staff?
then I'll
The
entertain.
devil you know is better than the devil you don't know.
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
We're adjourned. Thank you.